think we've gotten used to it. Let's do something interesting. Hi guys, Ready Set RC, and today we have the Arrma Kraton EXB. This is a full option roller, guys. It's a 1/8 scale, 4-wheel drive monster truck, and this is made for extreme bashing. That is what this truck is designed for. On this truck we have the 7075 T6 aluminum anodized chassis, front and rear shock towers, and the copperhead tires on this truck. Some of the things that you guys have been asking for a while: we have the anodized aluminum servo mount, a large receiver box, heavy duty turnbuckles, and for the first time I'm noticing this on the Kraton, we have a limited slip differential. Also noticing heavy duty front upper steel hinge pins. So this thing is really dedicated to the hardcore bashers out there. Not saying that it's unbreakable, but it's dedicated to the hardcore bashers out there. The dimensions on this truck are exactly the same compared to the V4, and I will show you a V3. Along with the tower-to-tower brace, we also have a metal front and rear chassis brace on this as well. Aluminum front upper hanger and top plate, steel rear suspension mounts. We also have that sleeve on the drive shaft. This super tough, totally new design front bumper, and this very cool rad body, guys. I also want to point out that the arms on this are super beefy compared to the V3. As I said, I don't own a V4, so I can't speak on the V4, but super beefy arms that we see on this. But that's it, guys. Let's get this thing out of the box and let's see what it looks like. But here we are, guys. The Arrma Kraton EXB out of the box. This thing looks amazing. I will tell you that I'm not going to make this video pretty long. We're going to keep it really short. We're going to do some comparisons with this and my V3. My V3 is a mess. Anybody who's been watching me on Instagram, I posted up a couple pictures of my V3 Kraton really being launched on the T-Bone Racing AirTime ramp, guys. That thing went up about 15 feet in the air, was getting some good air on it, just really pushed it maybe a little bit more than I should have, and took a pretty bad landing and did some damage to it. So I'm ordering up some parts. I will definitely present it on the show today so you guys can see what it looks like compared to the EXB. What we got here is a new painted up scheme for the body. This thing looks amazing, guys. I know a lot of guys want some bright colors because they like to put this on YouTube. Me, I don't care. I just want a good looking truck to back. As usual with Arrma, you have some of the tape in just the right areas for rubbing, but this body should definitely be reinforced because right here you're going to have those normal tears that do happen, and I would say just reinforce it before you go out bashing. I did that to my first body. I reinforced it in those areas where they'll still have a little bit of stress, and I still got the stress on my V3. So I'm telling you right now, just reinforce your body. I know a lot of guys are questioning if they should get this if they own the V4, and it all depends on what you're planning on doing with your truck. For me, I got the AirTime ramp, and then I definitely wanted to get this. It was just by luck that Arrma released this truck because I needed something in my fleet to really test out that AirTime ramp, and this is going to be it. As I mentioned before, this is a 7075 aluminum chassis. It is a 3mm chassis. I know a lot of guys out there will compare it to some aftermarket chassis. Me, I don't own the aftermarket chassis, so I can't speak on them. We do have the metal chassis braces in the front and the rear. Tower-to-tower braces I mentioned before. As we're going through this, guys, I want you to know this does not come with any electronics. There are no electronics supplied to this. I already have the electronics built out for this. What you'll need for this truck is a receiver. I have the SR215 receiver for this. I only need a 2-channel receiver. I do not plan on putting lights or anything else on my truck, so 2-channel is perfect enough. This is the Arrma BLX185 ESC. I plan on putting this in the truck as well. We're going with the Arrma BLX 2050 kV motor. I could go bigger, but I think for right now we're going to see what this does, and if we want to, we'll go a little bit more into the power of this truck. But for right now, 6S is more than enough that I want to run on this truck for at this point. On this motor, I will be running the Powerhobby twin fan. I will put all parts in the description below, guys, but this is the fans. These are the fans that we're going to run on this motor. Servo, we're going with the Amazon special. This is a 25 kg servo. You can purchase it anywhere on Amazon. It's waterproof and it's perfect for this application. And as for pinions, not quite sure what I'm going to go with on this. I may go with a 14 tooth. I haven't quite thought about it yet. I want to go with a little bit more than what comes on the RTR stock on this truck. Pinion that comes with this truck is a 12 tooth pinion. They're calling this a high-speed pinion in the back. I don't know why. It's an optional high-speed pinion because this is standard pinion that you get on the RTR. You get a ton of shock pistons on here as well. A couple of T-wrenches and Allen keys is another thing that you get on this. The Arrma stickers, warranty information, and you get the EXB manual. Typical affair that you normally get within these Arrma vehicles. Their website also has a nice blowout of the truck. But that's it, guys. Let's get all this stuff mounted up in the truck, and then let's do a comparison between this and the V3 Kraton. So here we are, guys. All the parts mounted up. You have the servo, the ESC, the motor fan, and the receiver. Everything mounted up nicely, especially since we're using Arrma parts in here. So it's an Arrma ESC and an Arrma motor in here. As for the servo, had no issues. It's a 25 tooth servo in here, so that married very well with the servo arm, which is also for a 25 tooth. I know you guys, if you're looking to use the Spektrum servos, I believe from my experience with the Spektrum servos, they come to be 23 tooth, so be careful if you're going to use that. You'll have to swap out the arm that comes on this truck. But if you're using a 25 tooth servo, should have no issues. I did use the spacers that come with this, and I've used them to elevate the servo up a little bit. I just didn't want it sitting directly onto the chassis. The receiver went in there excellent, no issues. I actually used the battery channel for the fans. For the most part, everything is done. Just ready to get this in some dirt. But one more thing we're gonna do, we're gonna compare this truck to our Kraton V3 and see what the differences are compared to the two. More so, not for a size comparisons like we normally do on our videos, but I want to compare, some of the other parts that you see on this versus what you will not see on a typical Kraton V3. As I said, I don't own the V4 Kraton, but there are some noticeable differences between this and the V3, and it will definitely show you that on the video today. So here we are, guys. Kraton V3, Kraton EXB. Sorry I can't get these two completely in frame. Do not have the room to actually show them in that fashion. But what I really want to point you guys to is the parts that they use and how they're beefed up. Now my Kraton V3, I do have some M2C chassis braces on here. I have a Voltage Hobby servo mount in here. So those things are different between the two trucks, but outside of that, this is a stock V3 Kraton. Another thing that I wanted to show you guys is that I'm not using the mini Tonkas that would come on here. Actually had an issue with the mini Tonkas after my first set of videos with it, and I'm now running some Pro lines on this truck. So apologize for the dirt. At the timing of this video, I actually did a nice little bass session with this. I did break it, and I will definitely show that in the video for the V3 Kraton that I have, my more recent V3 Kraton video. So look for that video to come, guys. But what I want to show you on this, if you look at the support arms on the V3 Kraton, and I don't have a gauge that's going to actually measure, you can see the size difference between the two trucks. You can see the pins that they use on here. There is a size difference between the two trucks. As you guys can see on my V3 Kraton, I'm using M2C chassis brace. So normally these chassis braces would be plastic on a V3 Kraton. You could also see that I'm running the Voltage Hobby servo mount. That also would be plastic on a V3 Kraton. That's another area of strengthening that I chose to do on this truck. As you see, my drive shaft is bent. That's one of the parts I'm replacing. But the drive shaft axles on the two trucks, they're the same. That has not changed. The size difference between the axles has not changed. I'm looking at the hub carriers between the two trucks, and it doesn't look like there's much change between the two. Shocks too, it looks like the shocks are identical between the two trucks. I'm noticing the shock towers on the V3, they are not machined. But from what I can see on the EXB, they are machined shock towers on that truck. Placement of the electronics on the two trucks, as I said, I try to keep them very close as possible, and it is pretty much identical. That hasn't changed between the two trucks of where the placement of everything goes. Coming down to the turnbuckles, yeah, there is definitely a size difference when it comes to the turnbuckles on this truck. It is noticeable that there is a size difference. But what I am noticing, the rear shock tower on the V3 Kraton is completely different than what's on the EXB. Now, I don't know if that's different on the V4 Kraton. On the V3 Kraton, you have 3 adjustments for the shocks on the shock tower. On the EXB, there are only 2. That is definitely something that I'm noticing here. I mean, you guys who have the V4, mention it in the comments if the shock tower is or is not the same as the V3, but I'm noticing that there is definitely some noticeable difference between the two. As for the wing mount, I can't tell if it's a beefed up or new wing mount. It looks the same compared to what I have on my V3. But I can't really tell because my V3 one's a little gnarly at this point. As for the chassis, we all know that the EXB is using the 7075 3mm chassis. So we know that there's going to be additional durability. Brand new for the EXB is that front bumper, and it looks amazing. As for the V3, this was the first one that actually had some kind of bumper. Another thing that I'm noticing on the EXB is that receiver box is a lot larger, and I appreciate that, Arrma. Big thumbs up for that one. It's a lot larger than what's on the V3 Kraton. Really do appreciate that. That box is a fight if you don't have one of those smaller receivers. I know the receiver that I'm using in here now, it's small enough to fit even in the V3, but I appreciate that Arrma went ahead and created a bigger receiver box on here. So next up, guys, is to get this EXB in some dirt. Get this hitting the ramps, testing out the durability on this truck, and really seeing what this thing is capable of doing. But please like, comment, and subscribe. Check us out on Instagram for our latest post to the channel. This is Ready Set RC, signing out. Thanks again, guys.